welcome to another episode of The Journey to More. I am Jamila Moore. I am the founder and CEO of I Am and More. It is my baby, a full service leadership and business development firm where I support people in building out profitable businesses, not only to gain back their freedom in their life as it relates to their time, but also to live the life that they want to live. Today is a very, very, very special day. We are discussing the topic perfectionism and how to overcome perfectionism. If you've ever been in a place where you've crossed the T, made sure like the T had that right edge and then put that I like right there, then put yeah, that's me in the chat because perfectionism probably gets us all from time to time. Today, our guest for our discussion will be Dr. Annetta Doolittle. She is a devoted military wife, a mother of twins, and she's a twin. She holds a bachelor's of science degree in biology pre-medicine from the University of Arkansas. She has a doctorate of podiatric medicine. I just learned how to say that the other day from her. From Barry University in Miami Shores, Florida, and she's an adjunct professor for human anatomy and physiology. Her education and training in the lower extremity has allowed her to fuel her desire to educate, encourage, and empower others in their faith walk. Hence, she birthed her own business, Faith to Feet. Faith to Feet is committed to helping women triumphantly navigate every season of their lives by educating, encouraging, and empowering them to pursue greatness without compromising their values, vision, and voice. Let's bring Annetta to the screen. Hi, Annetta. How are you?
Good. How are you, Coach Jamila?
I am. Well, girl, you know you can call me Coach Jam.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, in my I am in more life. I'm Coach Jam. It's hard for me not to coach folks, but they didn't come to hear about me. They
All
probably
right.
came to hear about you. But what they really wanted to hear about was how are they going to overcome perfectionism? And I already see some people warming up the chat on YouTube. So Brene Brown, she says that perfectionism is rooted in the fear of failure, shame.
I would agree. I would agree. So I think for me personally, it's a misinterpretation, and it's a misinterpretation of excellence. So when I was growing up, my parents, there are 6 total siblings. So like you said earlier, I do have a twin sister, and then there are 4 other siblings. My twin and I are the babies. So when I was growing up, my parents stressed the importance of excellence. So my 6-year-old, 7-year-old mind interpreting excellence was, all of my experiences up to that point. So for them, though, they taught us about, being excellent in everything that you do. And they would also share stories with us of how they grew up in segregated schools. And so they received their textbooks from like the white schools, and some of their textbooks, they said that the pages would be marked up or even like the pages ripped out. So it's like in my 6-year-old mind, again, I'm imagining my parents, studying and trying to be what they're telling me to be, which is excellent, so I'm imagining them going home using those types of textbooks to be excellent. So again, that's how I felt like I was interpreting correctly at the time what excellence was, or what they were trying to tell me they wanted out of me.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, you're saying that the reason why we struggle with perfectionism is because we have misinterpreted what excellence should be. And so we start putting unnecessary pressure on ourselves to get to a thing because we have a false sense of hold on, a false sense of excellence. I need you to put that in the chat. If you ever dealt with the issue of having a false sense of excellence, because that holds you back, right?
Right, right. I mean, think about it. You're an educator as well. And so when we think about it from that perspective, you choose the range that you want to be in, right? I have twin daughters, so it's like we say to ourselves, do I want to be in the excellent range? That's the A, right? Do I want to be
Mhm.
in the good range? That's the B range. Do I want to be average? That's the C range. So me again, going back to my 6, 7 year old self and taking my parents' experiences, from growing up in a segregated school, I'm thinking, okay, I didn't realize that there was a range for excellence. I looked at it as it's a set point. I didn't see 90 to 100 is an A. An A is excellent. That's what's excellent. But there's a range for that. I just saw you got to get 100. You know what I mean? So, if you look at that in everyday life, like I said, as being an educator, you can see how, whoa, you put a strain on yourself at that age, 6, 7 years old, to I gotta make 100, and not realizing it's not a set point, but giving yourself the grace to understand and recognize or interpret there's a range or there's levels to this.
Yeah, it's something that you said around grace. And one of the issues that I have with perfectionism, like if I start something, I think that I'm supposed to experience an A maybe 4 days later. Like literally me detoxing. I'm not having the energy. Jamila, it's been about 2.5 weeks. It
Right.
takes some time to get the stuff out of your body. But what feelings are involved when we start to have issues with perfectionism?
I think the feeling of, again, I go back to my childhood and where it happened. I feel like you have this feeling of anxiety, and it was six of us all together. So there's like this, you know, quiet or silent competition of I gotta do this. The ones before me did this, or I'm in a twin situation where we're together at the same time. So it's like, okay, we got to make sure who's going to be the leader, who's going to be, the follower. Neither one of us can be a follower because that's not excellent, right? So I think my whole just, lifestyle being parented in a way where I misinterpreted that, it would, easily lead to feelings of anxiety or feelings of, you're not doing it soon enough, or you're not doing it fast enough, or, good enough, because you got somebody now right beside you to compare your work to. And it's not like, okay, you're just one individual. You got all of these others that have gone before you, and then your twin sister.
So I hear you talk a lot about your childhood. So do you think what we're actually dealing with as adults stemmed from our childhood?
I think a lot of it does have to do with your childhood. I do. I really do.
Could you provide an example of like when you first noticed you were dealing with perfectionism issues in your childhood?
Uh, Ooh, so probably early as probably third grade. I remember my third grade teacher. I think her name was Miss Monroe, but she used to give us spelling tests. And the other day I was looking at this. Actually, my older sister sent this to me, and my teacher used to give us spelling tests. So if you took the pre-trial spelling test and you made 100 on that, you didn't have to take Friday's spelling test. So I got this award for getting 100s on all pre-trial spelling tests. And so I think from then on, I felt like, ooh, I can do, I have to do this. Not I can do this, but I have to do this in everything that I'm doing. So I think it was just that little award. And it made me feel like, okay, again, I'm not giving myself a range of 90 to 100. It just has to be straight 100. And so, no, not allowing yourself that grace because of that, one little award.
Yeah, no, that's key. And it's interesting because I'm looking at the comments and some of them are blowing up. So misinterpreting excellence was definitely like a gin that was dropping. We probably need to lean in there. And then we have a question that says, would you say we see this issue of perfectionism in people of color more than other races?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know, because you see people through the waiting room as being a doctor, as a professor, you see all types of people. And so, even if you're looking at a stack of papers or your students in your classroom, what are you seeing in terms of perfectionism?
uh okay, so I'm gonna say I think I see more of it as a black person in general, and then I see more of it as a black woman. Like,
Mm.
so being a mother and seeing how and learning how to give grace, learn through just becoming a mother, and like, wow, there is so much pressure that we put on women. So I would say that I see it just as much in women towards one another. We put that pressure on each other to be perfect, when really, let's go back to faith to feet. When I think about perfect, the Bible tells us, be ye perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. So, but what is perfect? Going back to our misinterpretation, perfect is maturity. Again, we started off saying there's levels to this. It's not, like everything is every T is crossed, every I is dotted. It's levels, it's maturity. So again, I started off going to church at a really, really young age, and we did it religiously. So that was another misinterpretation of thinking, in going to church thinking, okay, perfect is doing everything right. And it's not. There's levels to it. And we started off with our example of you being an educator with 90 to 100. I can make the decision and say, I want to be in this range, but I just didn't have the mindset to know that it's a range and not a set point, you know.
Yes, we are really jumping into this conversation. If you are listening and there's been a gem that has blessed you, like, share, tag the broadcast to someone who needs to hear it. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Facebook, definitely like the page. I want to lean into something here because I felt it in my gut. We are not allowing ourselves to mature properly because of the pressure that we put on ourselves as perfectionists. And I'm going to give a real life example today. Now, when I am presented in front of other people, I want to look very polished and I want my certain look. And when it does not go right, I have a mini meltdown, right? Struggling with perfection. And the reality is, I should be more mature to understand that every time you may not be able to show up at that ideal picture of excellence.
But think about it.
Because, okay.
Who's in your corner though feeding perfectionism, and who's in your corner feeding excellence? Right?
Mm.
What voice is, on the right side, on the left side? Which are you feeding more? So for me in my life, it's like, okay, if that's something that I'm trying to overcome, I make sure that I'm not surrounding myself with other people that are like, you listen to them talking, they like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, and I got to do it. And it's like, okay, that really does nothing for overcoming perfectionism. It actually, makes me lean more towards that than excellence, right?
So, are we getting our first key right here to overcome perfectionism? You're telling us that we need to drop the list a little bit because it's actually providing more pressure, which is actually giving us anxiety, which is actually probably killing us.
Right, right. It's paralyzing you, right? We need mobility, right? That's what faith to feet is all about, keeping you moving in every facet of your life. But we got to know what facet we're in. So, as a mother, I can give a good example of this. When I first had my daughters and I wanted to go immediately into working, like, I was, every mother I think can relate to you getting in your car, you're driving every day to wherever you're going. It's just you're putting your seatbelt on. So you're going 100 miles an hour. But when I had my twin daughters, and it's like, okay, now I'm putting in two babies in a car seat, buckling two babies in, then I buckle myself in, and then it's like it slowed down from 100 to it felt like 10. So it's like it's not that I'm telling you that you are not to be moving, but I also the pressure is removed when you recognize what phase of life you're in. Right? As a mother of twins, I was putting so much pressure on myself that I had to be doing everything in that season when they were so tiny, 100 miles an hour, when I didn't need all that pressure. And no one really was putting it on me but myself. Right. So I just think that if I see Jamila going 100 miles an hour, I need to also, have realistic I need to look at that situation realistically, right? Jamila can do 100 miles an hour. I may not be able to do 100 miles an hour, at this time in my life. But the object is, or the objective is to keep moving, right? So, yeah.
No, no, that's real good when you talk about mobility. And what I took away from that is sometimes we need to pause in life and recognize what we can do in this phase and season of our lives.
Yes.
Because especially as we grow older, we think about all the things we could do. And me, I'll just give an example. The way I did law school, and I see Colleen on here, she was my coworker. We were running a school together, and I was doing law school at night. And she was like, I'm barely keeping up with at work and you going to law school. So how are you doing both? And I've taken that season at that age in my late 20s and tried to apply that to my 30s. And now I'm upset with myself sometimes because I'm not performing at that level. But like you said, I failed to realize one, that I was in a different season, and then two, to set a realistic goal to
Mm-hmm.
even get back to that level of discipline.
Mm-hmm. And then I look at it as, again, I just go back to I like to stay consistent. It's a misinterpretation of your season, right? You're misinterpreting what season you're in. So if I wanted to, I feel like that's what every, clinician, doctor does. You want to get to the root of why you're doing something. And I really do believe people that suffer from perfectionism, it's because we really have misinterpreted what excellence is. So when I say that I'm leaning more towards, sometimes I can recognize, man, today I'm leaning way more towards perfectionism than excellence. So how I've tried to redefine that for myself is I look at excellence and I say excellence just means quality over quantity. Right? It means that I want the quality of how I'm being a wife, how I'm being a mother, how I'm being a healthcare provider to supersede how many patients I may see, how many blog posts I may write, how many, and then I changed. So I've redirected and redefined what excellence is. Also, I have to do the same thing I look at perfectionism as what it is. Perfectionism, on the other hand, is my quality and my quantity, they both have to equal. When they both have to equal, that again means that I'm putting more pressure on myself. I have to have 50,000 likes. I have to have 50,000 blog posts. All of this at all times has to equal. And when that happens, you have to say, I'm in a no-win situation. Because if I say I posted 50,000 times today and I didn't get the 50,000 likes, like it's going to put me in a place of, oh, I didn't do enough. And so I think redefining what excellence is so you can minimize the misinterpretation, that would be helpful. Yeah, that's
That
helpful. The quality, you need the quality over, and it needs to supersede the quantity.
No, that is really helpful, and you hit on another key. And I see in the comments we have social media is now contributing to our issues of perfectionism. If you've ever been on social media and then thought you had to be better, type a yeah, that's me in the chat. I need to type a that's me in the chat because I know that I've been on there and said, let me get it together. But that's
Right.
also contributing to some of the issues that we're seeing with perfectionism. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're saying anything that is helping you out or that are gems that you think a friend needs to hear, like, share, tag the broadcast, and then definitely subscribe to the channel and follow on the Facebook page. Now, so I'm here and I'm almost being coached in this moment because I need to redefine what excellence is in my life and think of it as a quality over a quantity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then you brought this up to me as you were telling me about how you got on the treadmill
Yeah,
right after giving birth. Like, talk to me and give us some gems there around overcoming perfectionism and what you learned by trying to perfect yourself in that moment.
okay, so yeah, that was just crazy. So my older sister, yeah, she was helping me out. Like I had just given birth, and my twins, I had to have a C-section. So I stayed in the hospital just maybe like an extra 2 or 3 days because of that. But once I got out, maybe a week later, I was on the treadmill, like trying to get back to previous weight. And so when you have a C-section, the incision is about this long, so they give you these really long overnight pads, thick pads, to drain the blood from the incision. So you have to, that's what you're wearing over the incision. And so imagine wearing an overnight maxi pad on your incision, and you're power walking, not running because you can't run, but you're power walking like a week after a C-section. Just like ridiculous. But it all came from, me thinking, okay, I got to get here, and I got to get here at this time frame, and just putting all those unrealistic pressures on myself and not realizing what season is this? What's my pace in this season? Because my pace is not the same anymore. And just not really recognizing that. And my older sister, really, she's the one that brought it to my attention. She's like, okay, so for real, you out here on a treadmill, like for real. And I really, seriously, hindsight, it was just like, yeah, that was dumb. And so when I went for my 6 week appointment, she told the doctor that I had
She
been on
told
the,
you?
yeah, she told the doctor that I had been on the treadmill, and she was like, you could have got a hematoma, you could have got an infection, like it needed to have closed. So, just those unrealistic expectations, you want to make sure you redefined or whatever you need to do quickly, because you could really hurt yourself.
You stole the words out of my mouth. So perfectionism comes with health consequences.
It does.
In your case, that would have been physical. In my case, it's mental.
And I think it's all mental, honestly. It's all mental. Starts
Okay,
from
tell
a
us,
place.
doctor.
Yeah, it starts from a place. So I did a blog post on stop, drop, and roll. And so I was talking really about Martha and Mary. You all remember the story of Martha and Mary, the sisters of Lazarus. And so Jesus is coming to their house, and Martha is so encumbered by all of the things. So again, here is quantity. The quantity is, has to equal quality. Jesus is the quality, right? But she can't recognize that for all of the jobs and responsibilities that she has. But remember, the word says that, but Mary chose the good part, which was the excellent part. Jesus himself is the excellent part, and she was able to recognize. So mentally, when we have all these things to do, we can't see what we're trying to see because we got all of these things to do. So Mary knew that Jesus was already the excellent part. That was the quality in her life that was superseding all of those dishes that they had to do, all of that bread or cooking that they were going to make. And not only this, when we say it's spiritual or it's mental, I really do believe that. Because look at the same story and think about Mary and Martha. Mary could see the spiritual side of it. The bread of life himself was getting ready to feed her, while Martha
Mm,
was in the kitchen trying to get the yeast to
perfected.
rise.
She was in there perfected.
Right, trying to get the yeast to rise, trying to get the dishes ready, right? And it's like, man, she was able to see spiritually the bread of life is right here. Like, he's feeding me. And versus again, Martha, she's like, I gotta make some bread. And it's like, man, how many times does perfectionism impede our spirituality?
Mm.
right? And so it's like, and that goes to social media, it's like that is feeding your physical side. You need more food for your spiritual side, right? So yeah.
No, no, no. That's really good. And one of the things that I took away from that is we can miss what is right in front of us and the actual thing that we need because we're too busy worrying about our list that we want
Yeah.
to perfect.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna
Yes.
say that again. If somebody needs to type this in the comments, we will miss the thing that's there to save us, the thing that we actually
Ooh,
need
ooh,
to
that's a
better our life because we're over here with our lists, perfecting things and getting things off of our list that's going to make us feel good for a moment. Because after that moment, we're going to go on to the next thing to start perfecting that.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. That's so true. It's so true.
Wait, wait, wait. Perfectionism makes you constantly attack your self worth. Listen, Diane in the comments, we need to pause right there for Diane in the comments because that's so true. And that's the tricky part with social media. As great as it is, there has to be a balance.
You are so right. So you said she said it makes you do what? Read that one more time.
Constantly attack your self worth. Perfectionism makes you constantly attack your self worth.
Yeah, it does. So again, what that reminds me of is going back to the scripture, and we think of Paul when he was talking about thorn in his flesh, the messenger
Mm-hmm.
of Satan to torment him. And
Mm-hmm.
3 times he asked the Lord to take it away, but it was there to humble him. But he says that he recognized that in his weakness, Christ's strength is made perfect. His power is made perfect in his weakness. So sometimes if we just own that and just say, man, my worth is nothing. Just own that I'm nothing because Christ's power is made perfect in my weakness. And social media makes it hard for you to own weaknesses, right? Because again, it wants you to make it makes you want to be more than what God said he will do. God said that his strength is made perfect in weakness. So yeah, I think that if once you own, what are these weaknesses, then God will overshadow you
Yep.
always.
And I see Donette saying, as great as, maturity is and getting to an excellent place, there has to be a balance. And one of the ways that we overcome perfectionism is that we have to pause for the cause.
Ooh.
That's the only thing that we take away. No, we need to take away some more, but it is one of the only things we need to pause for the cause and recognize what location we're in right now
Yes.
and
Yes.
what is possible for us right now that we can do in a healthy way, mentally, physically, spiritually,
Hmm.
emotionally, even financially,
Right, right, right.
at all the levels.
Right, exactly. All the levels. And then now we've really redefined what God truly meant by being perfect. Because you said all the levels, right? Because it just means to be mature. And we know that we're not handing our 6-year-old kids a car, even though we know in our mind that, oh, they're getting a car when they turn 16 or 18. But we're not handing them the keys today because they're not there yet, but we know that they have the potential to get there. And so I think that, look at yourself that way. You're not there yet in on certain other people's levels, but you have the potential to get to wherever it is that God wants you to be in that time and in that space. And remember, Jesus, the scriptures would tell us a lot of the times it was not Jesus's time yet. It was not Jesus's time yet, right? So there were times that, his disciples wanted him to do certain things, but it was not his time yet. And he even recognized that. So we can say, hey, is this a time that I am to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord? And then if we go back to, we can say, having done all to stand, right? Sometimes the motion or the movement is just in standing. It's not, I gotta, run, I gotta walk. Even though I tell you at Faith to Feet, that's what I want to do. I want to strengthen your faith walk. But sometimes all you can do is stand, right? And so, not judging yourself harshly, right? Being able to just stand sometimes is all you can do.
Listen, now Anetta is a new entrepreneur. She's out here with Faith to Feet. I am Jamila Moore. I help people bring their visions to life from a business standpoint, and because I'm also an attorney, making sure that they're legally protected. And so, if you are new to the broadcast or you're just logging on, this is Dr. Anetta Doolittle, and we are really working through what is the meaning of perfectionism and how we can overcome it in our lives. So, one of the things that I wanted us to really dive into as we're coming to an end for this broadcast is, as a new entrepreneur, what ways did perfectionism show up for you?
Ooh, a lot, a lot of different ways, but one in particular is just my voice. I felt like
Mm.
perfectionism because in my mission, I say that I want to help women pursue greatness without compromising their values, their vision, and their voice. So when I write my blog post, honestly, that's just my heart. That's my voice. And so at times I would be really, really critical on what I was writing and how it was coming off. All at the same time before I'm, hitting publish, or I was always praying and asking God, let this be how you wanted me to write this. Let this be what you wanted me to say. And then really I had to come to the realization of I'm not going to be for everybody. And once I came to that realization, that took the pressure off being perfect again, because I'm not for all of the billions of people in the world, right? And I don't think that you are either. So you're taking pressure off yourself when you recognize that.
So, one of the things that I'm taking away right now are some ways that we can recognize when perfectionism is showing up in our lives. So,
Mm-hmm.
one way is if we're starting to feel a lot of pressure in our lives or a lot of anxiety, that's an opportunity to pause for the cause,
Yes. You want to pause. You want to pause. Yeah.
re examine where we are and what we can do reasonably. And I'm gonna throw that's an attorney term right there, like reasonably. And it was reasonable to you, but
Right.
it's so important that we do that because, like Diane said, it's really stressing us out. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have these two extremes of what success is, or what greatness is, or what excellence is either the A or the F.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, what if I'm at the F and I start to be a D? That's perfection at that level, or that's growth at that level. What if I start to
Mm-hmm.
be a B, above average? And if you're just joining us, I am here with Dr. Anetta Doolittle. We're discussing perfectionism and how to overcome it. Like, share, tag the broadcast, and make sure you press subscribe and like the Facebook page. And it's interesting because the third key that I would probably offer to perfectionism is doing it until you can perfect it.
Mm-hmm. Repeat that.
Do it until you can perfect it. So,
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
is what I mean by that. Do it, practice it so that you can grow in it and become better at it. A lot of times we spend time paralyzed,
Mm-hmm.
not moving, not growing, not doing anything because we are waiting for the excellent person to show up,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that vision of excellence is. And I was just reminded of that because I don't like to stumble over my words, but I stumble over my words sometimes. I'm
Mm-hmm.
human. And
Right.
right, like there are people that will hear this broadcast today, maybe even 10 years from now, and be blessed and helped by it. But what if I stayed paralyzed because sometimes I don't speak in the way that I think is perfection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. It's exactly that. You're paralyzed, right? You are not moving towards whatever it is that you know that you're called to be moving towards. And that's what perfectionism does. It paralyzes you. And we definitely don't want that. So if you are working from a, trying to work out of a mindset of having perfectionism, I think that you can take steps in saying, okay, I'm working towards not being perfect today. So how does that look for me? How do I practice that? Like you said, how do I say, okay, I'm not going to require myself this to be able to do this amount of posts in this amount, in this amount of days, or whatever the case may be. So it's the mastery I think you are getting to. Like, how do I master it? Do I need to take the word perfection out of my vocabulary? Like, some people have to go to an extreme, some people don't. So it's like, think about it in a way. I'm trying to think about it in the most practical way. So for me, it's just like, if you have some type of addiction, some people can say, I'm completely healed of the addiction and I can still be around it. But there are others that they're healed from the addiction, but they cannot be around it, right? Or they can stand to be around it. So it's like, do you need to redefine it? Do you need to take it out of your vocabulary? And as you said, when I practice it and I become perfect at it, then that's mastery. I think we want to master some things, right? So I think that minimizes us in saying I got to be perfect more than I have to master it, because mastery means I'm practicing it.
Yeah, and I see Tamithia in the comments said practice makes perfect. We've all been taught that since we were kids. And that's true. And I think after tonight, you want to say practice makes us better.
Right, right.
About the journey to more, the journey to becoming the best version of yourself, the journey to getting to a place where you have that balance and you feel well
You feel well.
mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
then when we are having those moments, this is the phrase for the night. We gotta pause for the cause.
Yes, pause for the cause. Yeah.
Dr. Annetta, any last word or thoughts on overcoming perfectionism for this audience?
Yeah, I just appreciate you, Jamila, for having me on. The last thing that I would just leave you with is give yourself grace. That's what God tells us in His Word. He says, "My grace and my mercies are new every morning." Receive that. Like, if you can receive that from Him, I think that you are on your way to overcoming perfectionism. Yeah, it starts with Him.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Like, if you set a goal on Monday and then it's out the wall by Tuesday, that's all right.
Yeah,
Give yourself the grace to go grow and then try again next week.
yeah.
We will be back with you all. Well, I will be back with you all in 2 weeks with Shirley King, and we will be discussing Worth the Wait.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this is all tying into each other. We started off with the backside of success. Now we're talking about overcoming perfectionism, because when you said, like, let's think about if you want a certain job or something like that and you have to wait, that
Mm,
perfectionist will kick in and start telling you some things that you got to do and maneuver and
right.
it can
Yeah.
be real.
Right. And then we're back at square one, but we won't be back at square one.
Yes, yes, yes. We hope that you've been blessed. Have a great night and see you again in 2 weeks.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.